Hello and welcome back to Brendan Moir's Playwright Corner, where I read plays, poems, or whatever's currently striking my fancy at the moment. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a wonky thing with the readings. Upon some of my research, I found out that there is strong evidence to perform these plays in non-chronological order because of some of the stage directions, as well as searching some things up online. But today we're going to be reading W.B. Yeats's The Resurrection and then Calvary. The Resurrection was written in 1931, and then Calvary was written in 1920. So hopefully you will enjoy this theatrical experiment, if you will, and let's begin with The Resurrection. The persons in the play of The Resurrection are the Hebrew, the Greek, the Syrian, Christ, and 3 musicians. The stage directions start as such. Before I had finished this play, I saw that its subject matter might make it unsuitable for the public stage in England or Ireland. I had begun it with an ordinary stage scene in the mind's eye. Curtained walls, a window and door at back, a curtained door at left. I have now changed the stage directions and wrote songs for the unfolding and folding of the curtain, that it might be played in a studio or a drawing room like my dance plays, or at the Peacock Theatre before a specially chosen audience. If it is played at the Peacock Theatre, the musicians may sing the opening and closing songs, as they pull apart or pull together the proscenium curtain. The whole stage may be hung with curtains with an opening at the left. While the play is in progress, the musicians will sit towards the right of the audience. If at the Peacock, on the step which separates the stage from the audience, or on either side of the proscenium. Song for the unfolding and folding of the curtain. 1. I saw a staring virgin stand where holy Dionysus died, and tear the heart out of his side, and lay the heart upon her hand, and bear that beating heart away, and then when all the muses sing of Manus Anus at the spring, as though God's death were but a play. 2. Another Troy must rise and set, another lineage feed the crow, another Argo's painted prow drive to a flashier bauble yet. The Roman Empire stood appalled, it dropped the reins of peace and war, when that fierce virgin and her star out of the fabulous darkness called. The Hebrew is discovered alone upon the stage. He has a sword or spear. The musicians make faint the drum taps or sound a rattle. The Greek enters through the audience from the left. The Hebrew. Did you find out what the noise was? The Greek. Yes. I asked a rabbi. The Hebrew. Were you not afraid? The Greek. How can he know that I am called a Christian? I wore the cap I bought from Alexandria. He said the followers of Dionysus were parading the streets with rattles and drums, that such a thing had never happened in this city before, that the Roman authorities were afraid to interfere. The followers of Dionysus have been out among the fields, tearing a goat to pieces and drinking its blood, and now are wandering through the streets like a pack of wolves. The mob was so terrified of their frenzy that it left them alone, or, as seems more likely, so busy hunting Christians that it had time for nothing else. I turned to go, but he called me back and asked me where I lived. When I said outside the gates, he asked if it was true that the dead had broken out of the cemeteries. The Hebrew. We can keep the mob off for some minutes, long enough for the 11 to escape over the roofs. I shall defend the narrow stair between this and the street until I am killed. Then you will take my place. Why is not the Syrian here? The Greek. I met him at the door and sent him a message. He will be back before long. 3 of us will be few enough for the work at hand. The Greek, glancing towards the opening at the left. What are they doing now? The Hebrew. While you were down below, James brought a loaf out of the bag, and Nathaniel found a skin of wine. They put them on the table. It was a long time since they had been eaten anything. Then they began to speak in low voices, and John spoke of the last time they had eaten in that room. The Greek. They were 13 then. The Hebrew. He said that Jesus divided bread and wine amongst them. When John had spoken, they sat still, nobody eating or drinking. If you stand here, you will see them. That is Peter, close to the window. He has been quite motionless for a long time, his head upon his breast. Is it true that when the soldier asked him if he were a follower of Jesus, he denied it? Yes, it is true. James told me. Peter told the others what he had done, but when the moment came, they were all afraid. I must not blame. I might have been no braver. What are we all but dogs who have lost their masters? Yet you and I, if the mob will come, will die rather than let it up that stair. The Hebrew. I'm going to draw that curtain. They must not hear what I'm going to say. He draws curtain. The Greek. I know what is in your mind. They are afraid because they do not know what to think. When Jesus was taken, they no longer could believe him the Messiah. We can find consolation. But for the 11, it was always complete light or complete darkness. Because they are so much older. No. You have only to look into their faces to see they were intended to be saints. They are unfit for anything else. What makes you laugh? Something I can see through the window. There, where I am pointing. They stand together looking out over the heads of the audience. I cannot see anything. The hill. That is Calvary. And the 3 crosses on top of it. The Hebrew. Be quiet. You do not know what you are doing. You have gone out of your mind. You are laughing at Calvary. The Greek. No, I am laughing because they thought they were nailing the hands of a living man upon the cross. And all the time there was nothing there but a phantom. I saw him buried. We Greeks understand these things. No God has ever been buried. No God has ever suffered. Christ only seemed to be born, only seemed to eat, seemed to sleep, seemed to walk, seemed to die. I did not mean to tell you until I had proof. Proof? I shall have proof before nightfall. You talk wildly. But a masterless dog can bay at the moon. No Jew can understand these things. It is you who do not understand. It is I and those men in there, perhaps, who begin to understand at last. He was nothing more than a man, and the best man who has ever lived. Nobody before him had so pitied human misery. He preached the coming of the Messiah because he thought the Messiah would take it all upon himself. Then someday, when he was very tired, after a long journey perhaps, he thought that he himself was the Messiah. He thought it because of all the destinies it seemed the most terrible. How could a man think himself the Messiah? It was always foretold that he would be born of a woman. To say that a God can be born of a woman, carried in her womb, fed upon her breast, washed as children are washed, is the most terrible blasphemy. If the Messiah were not born of a woman, he could not take away the sins of man. Every sin starts a stream of suffering, but the Messiah takes it all away. Every man's sins are his property. Nobody else has a right to them. The Messiah is able to exhaust human suffering as though it were all gathered in the spot of a burning glass. That makes me shudder. The utmost possible suffering as an object of worship. You are morbid because your nation has no statues. What I have described is what I thought until 3 days ago. I say there is nothing in the tomb. I saw him carried up the mountain, and the tomb shut upon him. I have sent the Syrian to the tomb to prove that there is nothing there. You knew the danger we were all in, and yet you weakened our guard. I have risked the apostles' lives and our own. What I have sent the Syrian to find out is more important. None of us are in our own right mind today. I've got something in my own head that shocks me. The Greek. Something you do not want to speak about? I am glad that he was not the Messiah. We might all have been deceived to our lives' end or learned the truth too late. One had to sacrifice everything that the divine suffering might, as it were, descend into one's mind and soul and make them pure. A sound of rattles and drums, at first in short bursts that come between sentences, but gradually growing continuous. One had to give up all worldly knowledge, all ambition, do nothing of one's own will. Only the divine could have any reality. God had to take complete possession. It must be a terrible thing when one is old, and the tomb round the corner, to think of all the ambitions one has to put aside. To think, perhaps, a great deal about women. I want to marry and have children. The Greek, who is standing facing the audience and looking over their heads. It is the worshippers of Dionysus. They are under the window now. There's a group of women who carry upon their shoulders a bier with an image of the dead god upon it. No, they are not women. They are men dressed as women. I have seen something like this in Alexandria. They are all silent as if something were going to happen. My God, what a spectacle. In Alexandria, a few men painted their lips vermilion. They imitate women that they may attain in worship on a woman's self-abandonment. No great harm comes of it. But here, come look for yourself. The Hebrew. I will not look at such madmen. Though the music has stopped, some men are still dancing, and some of the dancers have gashed themselves with knives, imagining themselves, I suppose, at once the god and the titans that murdered him. A little further off, a man and a woman are coupling in the middle of the street. She thinks the surrender to some man the dance threw into her arms may bring her god back to life. All are from the foreign quarter, to judge by face and costume, and are the most ignorant and excitable class of Asiatic Greeks, the dregs of the population. Such people suffer terribly and seek forgetfulness in monstrous ceremonies. Ah, that is what they were waiting for. The crowd has parted to make way for a singer. It is a girl. No, not a girl. A boy from the theatre. I know him. He acts girls' parts. He is dressed as a girl, but his fingernails are gilded and his wig is made of gilded cords. He looks like a statue out of some temple. I remember something of the kind in Alexandria. 3 days after the full moon, a full moon in March, they sing the death of the god and pray for his resurrection. One of the musicians sings the following song. Astrea's holy child, a rattle in the wind, where a titan strode, his rattle drew the child into that solitude. Barum, barum, barum. Drum taps accompany and follow the words. We wandering women, wives for all that come, tried to draw him home, and every wandering woman beat upon that drum. Barum, barum, barum. But the murderous titans, where the woods grow dim, stood and waited him. The great hands of those titans tore limb from limb. Barum, barum, barum. On virgin Astrea, that can succor all, wandering women call out to Astrea, that the moon stood at the full. Barum, barum, barum. The Greek. I cannot think all that self-surrender and self-abasement is Greek, despite the Greek name of its god. When the goddess came to Achilles in the battle, she did not interfere with his soul. She took him by his yellow hair. Lucretius thinks that the gods appear in the visions of the day and night, but are indifferent to human fate. That, however, is the exaggeration of a Roman rhetorician. They can be discovered by contemplation. In their faces a high, keen joy like the cry of a bat. And the man who lives heroically gives them the only earthly body that they covet. He, as it were, copies their gestures and their acts. What seems their indifference is but their eternal possession of themselves. Man, too, remains separate. He does not surrender his soul. He keeps his privacy. Drum taps to represent knocking at the door. The Hebrew. There is someone at the door, but I dare not open with that crowd in the street. The Greek. You need not be afraid. The crowd has begun to move away. The Hebrew goes down into the audience towards the left. I deduce from our great philosophers that a god can overwhelm man with disaster. Take health and wealth away, but man keeps his privacy. If that is a Syrian, he may bring such confirmation that mankind will never forget his words. The Hebrew, from amongst the audience. It is a Syrian! There is something wrong. He is ill or drunk. He helps the Syrian onto the stage. The Syrian. I am like a drunken man. I can hardly stand upon my feet. Something incredible has happened. I have run all the way. I must tell the 11 at once. Are they still in there? Everybody must be told. The Hebrew. What is it? Get your breath and speak. The Syrian. I was on my way to the tomb. I met the Galilean woman, Mary the mother of Jesus, Mary the mother of James, and the other woman. The younger women were pale with excitement and began to speak all together. I did not know what they were saying, but Mary, the mother of James, said that they had been to the tomb at daybreak and found that it was empty. Ah, the Hebrew. The tomb cannot be empty. I will not believe it. The Syrian. At the door stood a man all shining and cried out that Christ had risen. Faint drum taps from the faint sound of a rattle. As they came down the mountain, a man stood silently at their side. That was the man Christ himself. They stooped down and kissed his feet. Now stand out of my way, that I might tell Peter and James and John. The Hebrew, standing before the curtained entrance of the inner room. I will not stand out of the way. The Syrian. Did you hear what I said? Our master has arisen. I will not have the 11 disturb for the dreams of women. The Greek. The women were not dreaming. They told you the truth, and yet this man is in the right. He is in charge here. We must all be convinced before we speak to the 11. The 11 will be able to judge better than we. The Greek. Though we are so much younger, we know more of the world than they do. If you told your story, they would no more believe it than I do. But Peter's misery would be increased. I know him longer than you do, and I know what would happen. Peter would remember that the women did not flinch, that not one amongst them denied her master, that the dream proved their love and faith. Then he would remember that he had lacked both, and imagine that John was looking at him. He would turn away and bury his head in his hands. The Greek. I said that we must all be convinced. But there is another reason why you must not tell them anything. Somebody else is coming. I am certain that Jesus never had a human body, that he is a phantom and can pass through that wall. That he will so pass. That he will pass through this room, that he himself will speak to the apostles. The Syrian. He is no phantom. We put a great stone over the mouth of the tomb, and the women say that it has been rolled back. The Hebrew. The Romans heard yesterday that some of our people planned to steal the body, and to put abroad a story that Christ had risen, and so to escape our shame in our defeat. They probably stole it in the night. The Syrian. The Romans put sentries at the tomb. The woman found the sentries asleep. Christ had put them asleep, that they may not see him move the stone. The Greek. A hand without bones, without sinews, cannot move a stone. The Syrian. What matters if it contradicts all human knowledge? Another Argo seeks another fleece. Another Troy is sacked. Are you laughing? What is human knowledge? The knowledge that keeps the road from here to Persia free from robbers. That has built beautiful, humane cities. That has made the modern world. That stands between us and the barbarian. The Syrian. But what if there is something it cannot explain? Something more important than anything else? You talk as if you wanted the barbarian back. What if there is always something that lies outside knowledge, outside order? What if at the moment when knowledge and order seem complete, that something appears? The Hebrew. Stop laughing. What if the irrational return? What if the circle begin again? Stop. He laughed when he saw Calvary through the window, and now you laugh. He too has lost control of himself. Stop, I tell you. Drums and rattles. The Syrian. But I am not laughing. It is the people out there who are laughing. The Hebrew. No, they are shaking rattles and beating drums. The Syrian. I thought they were laughing. How horrible. The Greek, looking out over heads of audience. The worshippers of Dionysus are coming this way again. They have hidden their image of the dead god, and have begun their lunatic cry, God has arisen! God has arisen! The musicians who have been saying God has arisen fall silent. They will cry God has arisen through all the streets of the city. They can make their God live and die at their pleasure. But why are they silent? They are dancing silently. They are coming nearer and nearer, dancing all the while, using some kind of ancient step unlike anything I've ever seen in Alexandria. They are almost under the window now. The Hebrew. They have come back to mock us, because their God arises every year, whereas our God is dead forever. How they roll their painted eyes as the dance grows quicker and quicker. They are under the window. Why are they all of a sudden motionless? Why are all those unseeing eyes turned upon this house? Is there anything strange about this house? The Hebrew. Somebody has come into the room. Where? I do not know. But I thought I heard a step. I knew that he would come. There is no one here. I shut the door at the foot of the step. The curtain over there is moving. No. It is quite still, and besides, there is nothing behind it but a blank wall. Look. The Hebrew. Yes. It has begun to move. During what follows, he backs in terror towards the left-hand corner of the stage. The Greek. There is someone coming through it. The figure of Christ, wearing a recognizable but stylistic mask, enters through the curtain. The Syrian slowly draws back the curtain that shuts off the inner room where the apostles are. The three young men are towards the left of the stage. The figure of Christ is at the back towards the right. The Greek. It is the phantom of our master. Why are you afraid? He has been crucified and buried, but only in semblance, and is among us once more. There is nothing here but a phantom. It has no flesh and blood. Because I know the truth, I am not afraid. Look, I will touch it. It may be hard under my hand like a statue. I have heard of such things, or my hand may pass through it, but there is no flesh and blood. He goes slowly up to the figure and passes his hand over its side. The heart of a phantom is beating. The heart of a phantom is beating! Ah! The figure of Christ crosses the stage and passes into the inner room. The Syrian. He is standing in the midst of them. Some are afraid. He looks at Peter and James and John. He smiles. He is part of the clothes at his side. He shows them his side. There's a great wound there. Thomas has put his hand into the wound. He has put his hand where the heart is. The Greek. O Athens, Alexandria, Rome, something has come to destroy you. The heart of a phantom is beating. Man has begun to die. Your words are clear at last, O Heraclitus. God and man die each other's life. Live each other's death. The musicians rise, one or more singing the following words. If the performance is in a private room or studio, they unfold and fold the curtain as in my dance plays. If at the Peacock Theatre, they draw the proscenium curtain across. Song 1. In pity for man's darkening thought, he walked that room and issued thence. In Galilean turbulence the Babylonian starlight brought. A fabulous, formless darkness in, odor of blood when Christ was slain, made all Platonic tolerance vain, and vain all Doric discipline. 2. Everything that man esteems endures a moment or a day. Love's pleasure drives his love away, the painter's brush consumes his dream. The herald's cry, the soldier's tread, exhaust his glory and his might. Whatever flames upon the night, man's own resinous heart has fed.